Josh, and this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode 123. Welcome back for another great week of comics. A week so great, we're going to have to lighten around the first part so we can get to a second part, so we're just going to get right into it. First issue up this week is X-Files #1. This is co-written by Chris Carter, creator of the X-Files, and it's the first X-Files series we've seen in several years. The last one we had a crossover with 30 Days of Night, but a pure X-Files series hasn't been around in a long time. And it's great. It picks up after the end of the series. They hit the characterizations just right, especially for Mulder. I thought, he doesn't have a huge amount of screen time because they're setting up the whole series, but in the few panels he got and the few pages, they hit it just right. Like, I immediately identified Fox Mulder and his personality, and they really bring it. You see a bunch of things that are relevant, things that you would recognize from the series that immediately draw you in, but they also put people in danger immediately, and it was great. I was an X-Files fan back in the day, and I'm excited to see what they can do with the comics. Age of Ultron, number 10. Number 10, this is the end of Age of Ultron, except for the part where it's not, because there's Age of Ultron 10.ai, whatever, in a week or two. But this is the end of the normal Age of Ultron series, the culmination of the thing, and it comes in a cool black bag, because Superman dies inside, I would assume. But it was a nice wrap-up. They tied the threads together, and definitely, it was almost more of a kickoff than a wrap-up. It asked more questions than it answered, but it got me excited about some of the things, some of the possible implications coming out of the end. So, Age of Ultron, you can pick yours up in an attractive black bag that goes with everything. Next up, this is a great one. Incredible Hulk, number 9. Written by Mark Waid, art by Matteo Scaleria. Justice Anthony Scalia. No. Matteo Scaleria. And this is actually a really cool issue. I love Mark Waid's Daredevil. I've liked a lot of his Incredible Hulk stuff. And this is a team-up between Daredevil and the Incredible Hulk, written by Mark Waid. I really like in this issue is the relationship we see between Matt and Banner. And it's very cool. Plus, we get the cool Daredevil cover, or the cool Hulk cover, where Daredevil is the little angels and devils on his shoulders, which is really worth the price of admission alone. But if you're reading either Daredevil or Incredible Hulk, this is a great pickup for you. And Fantastic Four, number 9. Wow. It's July. It's not even July yet. It's June, and we're on issue 9 for a book that started at the beginning of the year. Go Marvel, I guess. Written by Matt Fraction with art by Mark Bagley. This is what I love about Fantastic Four. The beauty of a book that's pretty much solely about time and space travel is you can travel in time and space. So Ben revealed an issue or two ago that he thinks he may have been partially responsible for Dr. Doom's transformation, or for Victor Von Doom's transformation into Dr. Doom, the accident in college that caused whatever went wrong with Dr. Doom, him to be crazy and have a broken face. And so, in particular Reed fashion, rather than consoling his friend and saying, no, it's all right, it's not your fault, he's like, well, we'll just go back in time and check it out. So Ben and Reed go back to the college days and see if in fact Ben is responsible. And when they get there, they run into a Council of Dooms. Because if you're as vainglorious as Dr. Doom, your own birth is a very important thing. So different Dooms from different timelines, different futures, have decided to go back and witness this nativity, this birth of the Christ figure that is themselves. And so you get great moments. I especially like the little moments before the actual time travelers show up, when we see, young Reed and Sue and Ben interacting, and some young Victor Von Doom. But Fantastic Four just knocks it out of the park every month, and this month is no exception. Next up is my pick of the week. We've got a book from IDW called Wild Blue Yonder, and this is a new book, issue 1. It's super cool. It's kind of like Tailspin meets Mad Max. You've got airships and kind of that classic era, 1920s Art Deco styling of airships and planes, and the world's in a bad way. Post-apocalyptic, you've got warlords using their blimps and air platforms and enforcing their will on others. You've got people fighting over fuel, people scraping to survive, and it was just a lot of fun. It was an entirely new universe, and they managed to grab you with the characterizations in just a few pages. They set it up just right, they trickle the information properly, and you get, cool battles and jetpacks and axes, and just awesome. And a cool, exciting, fresh concept, which is one of the things we love about indie books here at Alter Ego, and that makes it my pick of the week. Not a pick of the week, because it could be the pick of the 6 months, or the pick of the year so far. Saga Volume 2 comes out this week. Now, I know that I've told you about every issue in Saga 2, and they were all awesome, so you should totally pick it up. We still get the great Image price point of $14.99 for 6 issues. It is loaded to the gills with Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan work. We do get some cool sketches at the back, or some images of variant covers that we wouldn't have normally been able to see. And Saga Volume 2 brings me to a point. There isn't any Saga right now. It's kind of a problem for me. I like to have Saga every month, but there hasn't been Saga for a few months, and it's going to be a few months more before I get another issue. So we're going to talk about what you can do to struggle through a life without Saga. A life without American Vampire has been on hiatus for most of a year. What you can do to struggle through a life essentially without hope. So I found some things to maybe help you idle away the wild hours in your life until Saga comes back in August. First up is another book new this week, Conan, Queen of the Black Coast. Now this is the first trade of the most recent Conan series. This is written by Brian Wood with art by, well, 2 artists. So there's a 3-issue arc with Becky Cloonan and a 3-issue arc with James Herron. And Queen of the Black Coast is arguably the most requested Conan story for comics. You know, all the years they've been doing comics since the Marvel stuff back in the 70s and 80s, they never got around to Queen of the Black Coast because it's fairly adult, so it wouldn't have fit in the time period, and because it's complicated. It requires complex interweaving and character interactions that aren't necessarily the strong suit of all comic scribes. But Brian Wood really knocks it out of the park with this one. This is a Conan book for people who don't like Conan. The characterizations are there. You've got a younger Conan. He's not super Schwarzenegger-y, muscly bound. He's kind of a little slimmer, a little lankier, still, you know, strong and mighty, but young. It's a young Conan. He's kind of finding his way in the world, and that's how he manipulates and is manipulated by a older woman, the Queen of the Black Coast. And it's just knocked it out of the park. Becky Cloonan's art, especially on the first arc, is really solid. It gives you a great kind of emotive feel for the book, and if you're a fan of Saga, I would almost bet you'll love that. Next up, Atomic Robo. Now this is a book that's been around for a number of years. They do it primarily in miniseries, but the first volume by Brian Clevenger is, well, they're all by Brian Clevenger, but the first volume is amazing. It's sort of a Nikolai Tesla created robot. These adventures jump through time. Sometimes he fights Nazis, sometimes he's on the moon, sometimes he punches dinosaurs. You know, it's got that great mixture of humor and characterization that you see in Saga, while enjoying science fiction and far-flung things. So Atomic Robo is like Hellboy with science instead of magic. It's amazingly fun, and I especially like it because the more you know, the better it is. They will make offhand references to scientists and mathematicians throughout the 20th century, and they will make fun of and poke jokes at things that most people have never heard of. It's almost like Manhattan Projects, except happier and less sort of schizophrenic and suicidal. But Atomic Robo is a great time filler until you can get some more Saga goodness. And as always, I have reminded you, and Mark has recommended repeatedly, Lock and Key. Spiritually, this is probably the closest direct follow-up to Saga, not follow-up, the closest direct correlation. If you like Saga, you will almost certainly like this, because Saga is fundamentally a family story, and that's what Lock and Key is about. It's about a family whose father dies, and they move back to the ancestral home, and things get freaky weird. They move back to the home in Lovecraft, Maine. I think it's Maine. Lovecraft, somewhere in the Northeast. And they have this huge, sprawling mansion that, you know, their father and his father and his father grew up in. And they find that there are things that are not quite right. They have keys and doors that do things that you don't normally expect. There's a door where if you put a key in it and walk through, you become a ghost. Your body drops dead, your soul goes out, and is now a ghost wandering around until you come back through the door and take over your body. You've got a head key where you can kind of open up and look into people's heads and pull out memories, pull out experiences, pull out emotions. So it walks a great line between being this cool science fiction-y, fantasy, horror-y thing, and also being fundamentally about a family trying to survive, trying to deal with being in the world. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful read. Now I know what you're saying. I've given you some recommendations that are primarily about story. You know, I mean, I like art, but what some people really like about Fables is Fiona Staples. And Fiona Staples hasn't done that much. You know, for as much as she exploded on Saga, her back catalog in lead pencils and comics is very limited. My personal favorite of what she's done previously is a book called Mystery Society. It's written, the words are written by Steve Niles, who you may remember from such books as Criminal Macabre or, of course, 30 Days of Night. He's really one of the masters of modern horror comics. And Mystery Society is a great deal of fun. You've got a couple who are sort of borderline paranormal or mythic investigators, and they come into a lot of money. And using this money, they essentially become Batman. They develop an organization with resources, with the ability to go and find these things, to investigate telekinetic phenomena, to track down ancient artifacts. And it gets super weird. There's an animatronic Jules Verne, sort of a clockwork robot Jules Verne, and you've got just really cool, fun elements. Staples artwork here, it doesn't have the same clean line you see in Saga, because that's really, Saga is incredibly clean, and she does a great job with the backgrounds, laying kind of a palette for the art. And this, it's a much more pencil-y. I'm not good with art, but to me what it evokes for me is it's a grainier kind of pencil-y look that really fits the feel of the book. These characters that are sort of halfway swindlers, con men, maybe. they're cool, interesting characters, and it's a lot of fun and very endearing work from Fiona Staples. And last up, Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, Volume 1. Hawkeye is as close as you can get to awesome. Hawkeye is a great book every month, and I think a lot of people are turned off by the fact that it's a comic book character. He's capes and tights. He was in Avengers. He's wearing his cool Avenger costume on the cover. That's not what the book's about. It's a quiet, personal book. It's about his life, just trying to struggle as a human being. And it's immensely enjoyable. There's humor, there's action, there's Russian mobsters, there's supervillains, there's bow and arrows shooting things, and car chases, and dames, and there's everything you want in the world. But it's done in a really incredibly human and understandable way, much like the way Saga takes fantastical events and turns them into something very human and small and about families. And so I think Hawkeye is a great companion to fill your time while Saga is on hiatus. But Saga is not the only book on hiatus. American Vampire, we will be longer before we see more of it. We got a little holdover last week with the oversized one-shot, but we won't be seeing new AmVam issues until probably at least early next year. So a couple recommendations on the AmVam front. The first is a re-recommendation. Lock and Key is good. I don't care who you are, you will like Lock and Key. You should check it out. But of course, Scott Snyder's Severed. If you like his work, but you don't want to check out Batman because, capes and tights and whatnot, Severed is a great choice. It's a horror story that's not super bloody. I mean, there's definitely some horrifying blood, but the majority of the book is a sort of creeping, methodical, slow burn horror that is just kind of terrifying and really shakes you up a little. It's set in the 1920s, 30s during the Depression era. You've got little kids running away from home and the people or creatures that prey on them. And it's just a great thing. One of Snyder's great strengths in American Vampire is setting the book in eras. The ability to take 2 pages, and in those 2 pages I know immediately what year it is, whether there's a little block in the corner that tells me or not. He's great at capturing the moments of Americana and really sucking you into that point in history. And that's one of the huge features on Severed, is it feels like you're living in the 1920s, and it's just an amazing book. And if you're not a pretentious prick and don't mind reading superhero books, you should absolutely check out Iron Man Noir, also written by Scott Snyder before he blew up and became American Vampire Batman Scott Snyder. This is an Iron Man story miniseries that was set in the 50s-ish, 50s, 60s maybe. It's actually more of a pulp story than a noir story. It's a great adventure. Basically, it's Tony Stark is Indiana Jones. Tony Stark is a millionaire who gets to go off on these adventures and hunt down things, and then a magazine writes about them. But it's got great little moments for people that are familiar with the Marvel Universe. You have Namor as sort of somewhere between Roy Schreiber and Jaws and Captain Nemo. And you just get a lot of really cool moments. It's great characterization. It's great fun. It's much pulpier and much more fun than a lot of Snyder's heavier work, and I think you'd actually enjoy it. So that's what I think you should fill your days with until Saga and AmVam come back. Let me know what you thought. Am I totally off base? Do you have some more recommendations? How are you filling your days until Saga comes back? And as always, give us comments below. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/alteregomaniacs and on Twitter at alteregocomics. And that is what it is. Also, let me know what you thought of Man of Steel. Or did you not think about Man of Steel? Did you decide not to see it? Let us know. Have a great week.